Universal child benefits, also known as child allowances, is an incentive that governments in some developed countries have used to incentivize people to have more children. In the wake of the recent statistics census, the question that we're asking today is, has the time come for our government to introduce incentives to encourage population growth? This is the debate we'll be having today. But as usual, I'm not alone. I'm with my favorite co-host, Mr. Fangs.
How's it going, Chief?
Fantastic. And today we will be bringing you this debate on the voice of the people, your favorite current affairs, news, and analysis show. So as usual, we put this question out to you, the people, to find out what you guys think, and we would love to hear your comments. So do keep them coming in and tell us whether or not you believe that the government should pay people to have more kids. Maybe this will help our population numbers go up. So we will be back on the other side of this, and we hope you stay tuned to the voice of the people. Welcome to the Voice of the People. This is your favorite current affairs debate show where we take an issue, have a debate about it, and see what you, the people, think. So, like I said, I'm not alone. I'm with my favorite host, Mr. Fangs. And as usual, man, like with any debate, there's a side that's for it, there's a side that's against it. Like, I'm usually on the rational side. I'm usually on the side of conservatism. And today, I'm on the side of those who believe that it is appalling that our population has grown in such low numbers and we need to start paying people to have kids, Mr. Fangs. What's your position today?
Hey, I don't know about these low numbers, Chief, because I get at the station in Kiwana Musuke Abato. I get all what I am.
Yeah, pack station without Musuke.
Hey, no, Baba Siam Banandipiro, I get Nana Matatarna, I'm not Piro. The Combi, but we got enough people. Let's not try and rush to multiply our population. So, yes, I oppose the motion, Chief. I don't thought about it.
Yeah, look, as usual, man, we love to hear your comments, right? We want to hear what you, the people, are saying, because this show is called The Voice of the People. We are merely your conduits, your vessels to get your message across. So let's get straight into it, right? Like I said, we put this motion out, Kantera, so we're going to read some of the comments. We'll try to get to a lot of the comments, but if we don't read your comment, just send it in live, and yeah, we'll get to it. So the first comment here coming in from Daniel Mhandu Are. Hardly can support the few, and we want to increase population by saying people. It can't sustainability before pregnancy. Oh, do man Mr. Fangs, Daniel Mhandu.
Unemployment. Already youth unemployment is too high, and now we're going to add more youth so that they can be unemployed.
Yeah, but there's the school of thought, Fangs, that says that maybe our economy is not growing because the numbers to support, so, like investment opportunities are not coming. FDI, all that.
Nicholas Jolly Banks Basimani are child grant is there in other countries. People make children without fear because they get support from government. Failure to maintain your kids, you go to jail regardless of your financial situation.
Yeah, look, I'm just going to quickly read a little excerpt about countries that do have these child grants, because he's right, child grants do exist in some first world countries. I cannot take this term first world because I don't know the third world. So I don't know the West. So financial incentives for having children are increasingly appearing as a response to low birth rate numbers in places like Finland, Estonia, Italy, Japan, and Australia. Now, Finland, they did something interesting. They implemented a family benefits program called a baby box starter kit and a monthly allowance of 100 euros per parent. So basically, how go Finland, they give you like a starter pack, which includes all the essentials that you'll need for your kid, you know, body bath and all of these things that'll help you. Yeah.
Go Finland. Because now I don't believe what 100 euros a month is enough to pay rent. It's not enough to buy groceries for a whole human being for a month.
Okay, in Estonia, right, families are rewarded for having more children. The larger the family, the more money they receive. Lastly, I just want to read this last part, right? It says a baby is an economic investment. This is part of my argument, I just want to get it out, right? But if businesses get a new worker, and a consumer for products, right? Parents get someone who will support them in their old age. Governments get a taxpayer and a guarantee that the country will live on. France's program is designed largely to encourage childbearing and kicks in with families with 2 or more children. What you say to that, Mr. Fangs? You don't think a baby is an investment? They go to increase the working population.
I think that, you know, I remember being in an accounts class, from 3 and my accounts teacher said to us, is a child an asset or a liability, right? And most of the class said liability. And we were children, but we could see how much money we were taking from our parents. We all said liability, and she said, no, a child is an asset, right? So the problem is, we mustn't actually literally make it a child a financial asset to our, because that devalues that child. You get me? So that's why I think the idea of is misled a little bit, even if it's well intentioned. And I will go to MC Twain.
Just a second. Apparently your camera's out of focus, so just highlight that. So let me read comment that MC Twain while your camera gets fixed, right? And MC Twain, udumala na 100%, right? That's bull crap thinking. MC Twain violence. Africa suffers from leadership deficiency. A larger population does not translate to a better economy. Nigeria and South Africa would be very progressive economies if that was the case. We need progressive leaders, not a large population. Qatar, Oman, Brunei have smaller population, but wise leaders. You'll soon get somewhere. That's very poor thinking. It's a topic that does not even deserve our attention. Go to Pakalani and find out the number of average kids per household and compare it to households in Mbini or any poor neighborhood around. Stop thinking that gibberish. This guy we're gibberish. But you know, look, and here's the thing, right? He alludes to the fact that Nigeria and South Africa numbers don't help their population, but there's a reason why the greatest investment areas in the continent are Nigeria and South Africa. These are the 2 strongest economies in the continent. Partly it's because they have such an attractive workforce for any company that wants to do FDI. For example, how work any companies they try about Twitter or Facebook, where they usually set up their headquarters more Africa, would most likely be in a Nigeria or in a South Africa because of what? The numbers. Even though we have peaceful and all of these things, they would rather set up in a place where they know that there's going to be more economic activity.
Yes, but then what comes along with a lot of these other problems? I want to use those 2 examples you gave, because crime. La crime, you know, Nigeria, South Africa. Hey, la crime, so that's a part of it.
Yeah,
that's a part of the problem.
It's a part of it. There's other factors.
It's a part of the problem. You know,
there's also the legacy of apartheid,
Boko Haram, all of these problems that come with these large populations that you're talking about. You go to countries like China, the largest population in the world. They've got 2 million people in re-education camps, Chief. So no, I don't think big populations actually improves things for the people that are part of those populations. Usually what happens is the value of a human life decreases when you've got a lot more human lives.
Okay, let's get to another comment here. You want to read this comment?
more priwa. It was going to be morally logical thing for Botswana to do, but with small population, Botswana can't even deliver basic necessities such as uninterrupted clean water and electricity, good quality infrastructure development, top-notch quality education and research, etc., etc. Countries that gained independence prior to their SADC counterparts look like a country that just got its independence. Botswana must get its house in order before it can entertain that notion. Or it will plunge into anarchy like the rest of the continent.
Yeah, I mean, the continent is not in anarchy, my friend. These are some of the things they keep telling you, we're sensationalist. The continent is in anarchy. Like, let's be realistic here. Again, go back to the issue of where are the most attractive economies for any investor. And that's what drives our economic prosperity, foreign direct investment.
I mean, you say that.
Because essentially what we are just an extraction economy. We're diamonds. How do we diversify beyond that if we don't have the numbers?
I mean, I don't see why we need numbers to diversify, Chief. I'll give you an example of, we already had the examples of the Middle Eastern countries so far. Yeah. But Singapore is another great one, right? It's one of those first world nations, Chief. They've got a population of 4 million people. And they've got one of the largest economies in Southeast Asia. Why? Much larger than, say, Indonesia, which has 200 and something million people. Why is that? It's because they're stable, and it's because the government has created the economic climate for people to invest. It has nothing to do with population. People just want to know that my investment can grow and can be protected when I invested there. That's it.
Okay. Let me get to another comment here by Huitsone Hola Amang. There's a lot of comments coming in live. We appreciate them. We'll get to them just now, right? It's any really comment I'm going to skip over because Baduman, I think, there's a lot of no's. But here's one guy. If our population grows at about 30,000 per year, it'll take us around 30 years to add another 1 million. So I'm in support of government introducing something to help Baba get a population, just like what SA government is doing. You see, so that's another thing, thanks. Horikana is going to take us Bonebo Boma 30 years just to be able to get to 1 million. But when you believe that how many companies have come to Botswana and failed, citing a lack of population numbers?
I mean, I feel like people will generally come up with any excuse when their business fails, Chief, right? And you don't have numbers. It sounds like one of the lazy excuses that people throw out there. What, did we have like millions when you came into the country and now all of a sudden our population decreased? No, clearly you knew we didn't have numbers when you came in, right? And then you didn't run your business properly. And now after not running your business properly, we don't have population. Oh, come on. Right?
Okay, let me read the last comment from earlier before we get to a few of the live ones, right? Lebogang Mafufenyane are na lehabakare bantuela every day never ki itwala and government e ga e tlhaloganye sentle White House parenting yone ya go duelwa ke mang.
And I mean, that's actually the crux of what my argumentation will be about this idea that to try and pay people to have children, it perverts the sanctity of parenting and of childbirth, and the whole thing is just principally wrong. But even aside from that, you can ever pay enough money that parents will invest in their child. It will never match up. But man I think so.
Yeah, good guy.
But and for the right reasons, life so and it sounds like man if I at least got a bit of cash,
okay,
right, then I'd be able to afford to be a parent.
Let me ask you things. If when you knew this financial burden in ACO, would it make it easier for you to have kids? And a lot of people in the comments have been talking about Hore Lavritor had 300. I don't know where they get this number from. I don't think that one, the amount that I like
Talking
the
about
expert.
€100, what for Finland, mister?
No. Look, the amount is not important, right? We'll leave that one to experts to figure out, like social scientists or whatever. But say there was an amount that could, because there's no amount where you can say, no, that's enough money. Or what. But if we just look at both standard of living and back calculators, and would it make it easier for you?
I mean, you know what? I'm gonna be honest with that and say maybe, right? It might actually do that because I don't have children, right? But when I talk to all of my friends that have children, right, they make it very clear to me that money, yes, I did not have the money to have my child, but I wanted to have my child.
Yeah.
And the lack of money would not affect my decision, right? So you hear that. The lack of money would not affect my decision. So I wonder now why adding money would then affect that decision. I actually worry that what it's going to do is going to make people like me who have no business having children yet, right, to now think, oh, I could do it. It's cheap. I can afford it. And then I'm a bad parent.
Yeah, well, look, that's one thing, and that's what that comment was alluding to, parenting and Adriel Lakimana, right? I'll just read 2 more comments. I think we're going to go to a break very quickly, right?
That's right.
But this guy, I think this is the type of person, yeah, are duele re dile bana nka dira ba le 10 nna. So you see what I'm saying? I mean, maybe you're right, but then isn't that what we want? Look, I think one of the famous cases of this was under Nazi Germany, right? You know, Hitler wanted to industrialize, he needed more people, and look how that worked out for the German society, right?
Yeah, what with like only a Holocaust and 6 million Jews
I'm a baby.
But yeah,
well, we supposed to say different. I'm talking about the population, the numbers thing. You know, it helped Germany to industrialize. No, I'm not talking about. That guy was a crazy guy, but I'm just saying, it helped the country to be able to industrialize because of the numbers. Industrialize a young thing.
saying, you can import labor from other countries. For example, the Philippines export labor to most Gulf states. The return is over $5 billion per annum. So, Corey, the same way Brunei and Qatar do it. Yeah, just import labor.
But
if
now,
really need them that much.
but now there's all sorts of issues of like immigrant welfare. Qatar, no, look, if it's ours, at least maybe we'll care a little bit more. Not that we don't care about our migrant labor, obviously, but
1 minute. 1 minute. I want to just give a shout out before the time I'm breaking. Give a shout out to Sada. Sada, how you doing? Out of fans. That's a colleague from work. I'm glad you're watching.
Okay.
What up?
Hey, I thought this was work, thanks. So we're just going to take a quick break so that we can give you a word from our sponsors, and then we're going to get straight into this debate right after these words.
From the moment we wake up, we step into the shoes that are ready to conquer the day. Places to go, people to see, but there's no stopping this beauty. So let go and be free to celebrate your confidence. Take control of your day with Legends Legendary Wave products to keep your wave sensational this season. Apply wave control evenly over the waves to keep your hair soft, smooth, with a gentle shine to give you the confidence you need to change the world. Live your legacy in style. Ease into the smooth wave of the day and become unstoppable. Be legendary with Legends Barbershop, living your legacy in style.
Mr. Fangs, and Mr. Fangs is going to give us what he feels his arguments are for this issue. But obviously, like in any debate, so Mr. Fangs, why you feel like high population numbers aren't a good thing for a country?
First of all, the government has no business telling people like when to have sex and whether to use condoms and whether to get somebody pregnant. Go to all these things just feel like, and there was a court case end of last year at the Court of Appeals, which the government ended up losing, right? The Attorney General ended up losing, right? Particularly on one of those grounds, yeah, where the government has no right to tell people what to do in a sexual manner in their bedroom, right? And it's invasive for them to do that. And that's how we ended up with the sodomy law and being overthrown, right? It's basically, this is essentially what the government is doing, would be doing with this policy, is telling people, look, we want you to have children, right? And we want to dangle a little carrot in front of you so that hopefully you forget and bypass the normal calculus, decision-making calculus that you would arrive at in order to make a child, right? And I'm saying that that is problematic for a number of reasons. One, the government does not have any business in there. The government's job is to empower people so that they can make decisions for themselves. So you need to put people in a position where they are making the kind of money that they feel they can afford to have children. What you can't do is try and give people handouts and say, yeah, you can afford to have a child. Why not? Because, like the examples that Chief, you were giving us just now, right, 100 euros a month in Finland is nowhere near enough to provide a child, for a child, right, to raise a child. Nowhere near enough. Not when rent in a 2-bedroom apartment is over 1,000 euros, right? Not when food, groceries are going to cost you close to 1,000 euros. So that's absurd, right? So what this policy is essentially doing, policies like this do, because there is no government that can pay you enough to raise your child, right? It would cost way too much. So what policies like this are essentially doing is, here's a carrot, forget about all the important things that you would normally consider, right, when you are thinking about having a child, and then just grab this check, and yeah, you'll regret it later on. That is problematic. And secondly, it perverts the sanctity of childbirth. What do I mean by that? Well, normally a person, when they think of considering having a child, they think about, well, do I want to have a child, first of all? And secondly, do I have the capacity to have a child, right? And then once you've arrived at yes for those two decisions, then you start making the requisite planning for the child. Even before Wanatso, right, you're already planning for them, you're already making arrangements, you're already looking for a place to live that is suitable to raise a child in, you're already buying the preme, metseto, all these different things, right, to plan. You're planning things like, which schools am I going to send this child to, right? And by the they want to send their child to private school, then you're already starting to save up money to send your child there. You're making plans for things like daycare, right? All of these different things. And when you realize, like, you know what, then you decide, I'm not going to have a child. But now, this policy wants to give people money so that you think that you can afford these things. Right? You think you can afford to raise a child, but that's a lifelong commitment, right? So what essentially this is, it's get immediate gain for long-term pain, and that's problematic. The second thing it does here, this policy does, is it basically sends the message that the value of a child is the direct payment that you're going to get. Have a child so that you can get paid, right? And we've seen nightmares that start off exactly like this, right? There's so many cases that we've been reading about foster parents putting their children, prostituting their foster kids, right? Foster parents not feeding their children. What are foster parents? They are people who are paid by governments in order to adopt or look after, to be the guardian for children, right? So the only reason they're doing it, the primary motivation for doing it is because we want to get paid. And there's so many problems with foster care, right? With foster care. So that is a problem. And finally, what I want to say is this, right? I want to leave off with a couple examples, right? The idea that you want to create a financial incentive in order to get people to behave altruistically or behave in a good way, that is a flawed idea, right? It does not work that way. As a good example, there are a number of good examples of that. Japan, that you spoke about, that has policies like this. They try to pay people to have children, they try to pay people to get married, and yet people are having fewer children and people are getting married at a lower rate, right? To show that these things don't work. There's another great example we read about, Chief, in Freakonomics, where a nursery school tried to find people, right? Tried to find parents who were picking their parents up late, right? And what ended up happening? parents just started picking up their kids. More parents started picking up their children late because they realized that, oh, okay, if there's a financial value to this, then I don't need to feel guilty about picking up my children late. So what the nursery school realized was that there's some things that are done for moral reasons. And if you try and attach a financial incentive to that, you pervert and dilute the value of those things. So I don't want to pervert and dilute the value of having a child, right, Chief? And I think this policy would do exactly that.
Yeah, who comes to Fangs? Although, like, I question this nursery school and why parents are picking up their kids late from nursery school. I think more on there's other issues at play there, other than the financial factor. But let me get straight into it, right? I think, look, before I just want to deal with just a few rebuttals that came up from what you're saying, because you believe we're things, right? But I just want to ask you 3 very quick questions. Firstly, is there a link between high population growth and economic prosperity, right? That's the first question, Fags, and I want you guys to answer it as well. Secondly, what does a negative population growth mean for a country? Thirdly, will financial assistance remove the barriers to you having a child? These 3 questions, I think, are fundamental to this debate. Again, now, the first thing that Fangs is talking about, to be having kids left, right, and center. Look, this is an incentive, and the same way, incentive, so that it's a choice. You do it if you want to, right? So we're not forcing anybody, and people in these countries are not forced. So this whole idea, our government now is telling you who to sleep with, where no, that's not what's happening. Your whole opposition to this idea is just about the amount of money. No, but whatever. Look, let's come up with an amount that is adequate then for a relatively comfortable life, Hey, fine, thanks, I know you may have preferences of taking your kids to Disneyland every month, and maybe that's not going to help you get fulfilled or whatever, but just the average life, I think we can be able to afford that, right? This idea how we are killing the sanctity of childbirth and how it's this precious thing. No, it's really not that deep, guys. We're just adding numbers to the population. We need more people on this planet. I don't think we need to take away this idea. It's so deep. There's this whole thing that we're having with kids. Kids are special, but they're just human beings, just like us. So let's not make this airy-fairy thing and make it so philosophically untouchable that Bana are so sanctuous, But, the first issue, right, is there a link between high population growth and economic prosperity? Yes, definitely there is, right? And I understand what all of you and the commenters are saying. South Africa and Nigeria are not good examples because of things like crime and whatever. But those are other factors there's other factors that contribute to those things, right? And the benefits far outweigh it. I would rather live in a country like South Africa or like Nigeria that has an economy that's constantly producing new jobs, that has new products being produced, that has an international market to reach out to. Can I highlight, even just as an entrepreneur, the reason why an artist like Wizkid can outsell some American artists is because of the numbers. This guy goes platinum just in his neighborhood alone. I get it, 100 million in Nigeria. So some of these things, that's why they help. And that's why right now the biggest artists in the world that are pushing are like Bob Bella Boy. They're pushing Afrobeat. Why? Because they became big in their own environment first, Look, this is a little bit far away from what we're talking about, but the point is that these bigger economies have higher economic prosperity because there's more people that have the financial might to buy whatever product you're selling, right? Secondly, and very quickly, look, what is the effect of negative population growth? Look, it just means that our products and services, we have less customers for them. Secondly, there's less incentive for foreign companies to come and set up shop in Botswana. And one of the most important things we need is what? Foreign direct investment, right? We need to be able to attract these companies. Again, Fangs, when these international companies, they need to go to Silicon Valley, go Facebook, go Microsoft, want to set up their headquarters. Hey, you see what I'm saying? The whole Fenty thing, right? Right? The reason why they don't come and set up their HQ in Botswana is because literally Rihanna looks at it in terms of numbers. Okay, how many Fenty products are I possibly sell? Look, a good example of this, right, is a box office. You know how the states a movie box office, it sold this many worldwide. You know they don't even include the African numbers because our numbers are just so insignificant to what they actually sell worldwide. We're just a poor marketplace when we have lesser numbers, right? Lastly, right, before I hand it back to some of these live comments, look, will financial assistance reduce the barriers for the amount for now? But if somebody just says to you, look, whatever supplies you need, I think more people would be open to having kids. The reason why a lot of people aren't having kids now, and like a lot of the comments about again. So how can mitigate the more or at least just something? You yourself, don't you believe you'll have kids? And when it comes to what you're talking about, bad parenting, no, look, that one will deal with because develop as a society. We can only deal with one issue at a time. You know what I mean? So right now, our biggest issue is that our population isn't growing. Our economy as well isn't growing. So we need to do something, thanks. And I'm interested to hear solutions as well from the people. Give us some solutions.
Emmanuel Dibuse wants and paid so and also it's a good how to boy and I responded. Are true. How to true run, especially if you want the best for your children. Bato baka setroli bana jaga di khomo.
Bato ba sa ke ba tshola bana
bana jaga di khomo go itekangwa moralo and that's the idea
Emmanuel, you want fancy things for your kids.
No, the idea is that moto uitekanya moralo, and your proposal wants to make people forget moralo, right? And just think about, I'm gonna get a check, chief. And that's problematic because a child is not a check.
Yeah, but that's the problem is why must we think of a child as moral or the way you put it? You know what I mean?
Because if you don't think of it that way, chief, then you're not being realistic. This is going to cost you a lot of money and time.
I get the state will give you the money now, thanks.
Yeah, chief, it's not going to give you all the money you need for that child. No, that's
why I said they'll provide this €100 that they provide in Finland. It's to make sure how when Ali Emmanuel, what you're talking about, give these other fancy things for holiday and all of these things. You see what I'm saying? You can get tabana.
Exactly. You can get tabana already, chief. Already, but it's not enough. The average income in Finland is between 3,000 and 4,000 euros a month, chief. 3,000 and 4,000 euros a month, and you want to tell me that 100 euros is enough for one person to survive? Come on, it's absurd.
Okay. I want to deal with some of these live comments because, as the debate progresses, there's more comments that are coming. There's a comment here.
That name.
There's a comment here. Why is it a problem? Not enough people to conceive. Why are there not enough people? The answer is twofold. One, people aren't making enough babies. Two, people are dying from overwork or suicide due to stress and lack of cash, not character. Okay. The other suggestion, offer permanent residency to the youth. Permanent residency to the youth, that is third and fourth generation, in exchange for them living in extended families or the countryside, so that villages don't disappear. If they leave the area, they lose their residency. The condition wouldn't apply to their kids. This means we could open daycares, therefore creating more jobs and more taxpayers. I like this guy. I can't tell his name.
Oh, you mean the one where you turn villages into prisons? You like that idea, right? You can't leave your village. What is that?
This is the problem with radicalizing issues. He's turning villages into prisons. No, actually, thanks. One of these economists, these guys, Baba developed it. But one of the ways to help urban congestion is to improve the rural areas, because the problem is that everybody comes to the city for employment. Meaning, if we decide, okay, some people must stay in the rural areas, will that not incentivize the resource or the
You know what I find funny about these top economists and their ideas? It's probably somebody from the IMF or World Bank, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what I find funny about these guys, right? These solutions are never suggested for like America or the UK, right? It's always, yeah, Africa has too many people. Oh yeah, Africa's cities are too congested. Oh yeah, Africa.
Yeah, no, we're the least developed.
No, I'm
It's 'cause
sorry.
we're the least
I'm
developed.
sorry. Nobody told John and Harry and whatever their names are where to go and live, how many children to have. That's why they've got negative population growth right now. So please allow Tumo Letabo Lekhosi to do the same, right?
Okay. Let's get to another comment here from Tebes P. Moka. Shout out to you, Mr. T.
Shout out, Mr. Moka. What's up?
Are Tebe, are Fangs, big up. Chana, I'm watching the show live. Kilimulu Saga, Chief, that's the way to go. Yeah, that's our guy in Zambia.
Yeah.
J-Lo Lopez. Hey, shout out to J-Lo, man. He's a regular viewer.
It's
a she.
Oh, it's a she. Yo, my bad.
Hey,
J-Lo.
and J-Lo are nakare e batla borre ba thulanya ditlhogo na rona bomme a re duele ga e bakirula tleng
It's a mallet.
e tlhamaletse
I read it. I like J-Lo. Hey, Nkamo. Before you let me get to Nkamo. Our cost of living is expensive and high rate of unemployment in our country. Tota re tla ba tshola a bo re ba neela eng? E ba re ba neela di stipend le tsone tse di tswang from government. You see, all of these people, all of the opposition to this, ke kgang ya gore no, there is not enough money. And this is what I'm saying, guys. Let's take the money, the amount out of the question. Just principle.
If the money was enough,
if it's enough, we know there's never an amount that you can say, yeah, no, this is enough to raise a child. But the average.
Why try to ekare o ha e tlhaloganya sentle khumo seemisi are gape ha o belega ngwana o monela eng, and you think she's talking about money. No, mo lefatsheng la rona go sena ditiro gape le dijo di tura mo kana bathong jo. Wow, that's the idea. I'm gonna have this child, bringing them into what future right now?
Fine. But look, here's the thing that I think I get where these comments are going. But here's the question that nobody's dealing with, right? And what are the negative effects of a low population growth?
The negative effects of a low population growth.
Yeah.
There's really, I see none, bro.
No, some of the negative effects are, like I said, it's the fact that you can't attract certain industries to set up in your country.
But this isn't true, Chief. I've already told you, the largest financial hub in Southeast Asia is Singapore, which has the smallest population in Southeast Asia, Chief. Right? You'll find Jay-Z has a 40-40 club. In fact, the first one outside the United States was opened in Singapore, right? You've got Hooters, you've got all these MNCs, HSBC, whatever, all their headquarters are in Singapore. Hong Kong is another example.
Hooters, what is it?
It's a restaurant. It's a restaurant where women wear scanty clothing, right? But the point is, the point is, that has nothing to do, investment has nothing to do with population. It has a lot to do with economic policy and with stability of the economy.
I really wish an economist could comment on one, because you and I are not economists, we're debaters. And just break it down, the link between population growth and FDI and economic prosperity. Let's just get to a few of these other quick comments that have been coming in live, right? This is Kumo. Kumo Yame Khabuleli, right? Honestly, raising a child takes a special kind of person. Not everyone can raise a child. If the money is your biggest reason, you have no business raising a child.
Kumo, there's another homie of mine. You know, I know you got my back, girl. I feel it, right? Justice
Yeah. Then there's Matthews Disang. We are victims of that. Former President Une Are Ritsule Bana. Yano Rebatute Janong Risupulagawone, no, not fair at all.
Master Shifu,
I don't know.
I'm sure we'll do. The reason why we don't reproduce is because of cost of living. It's cost. Pay them and you will see a rapid population growth. But will we see good parenting and will we see well-raised children?
Okay, then there's David R. David, right? And I'm sorry I keep looking down. I know people keep complaining. But comment. David R. David, I do not think that is the way to go, honestly. You cannot increase the population for idle or ill-conceived reasons such as this. You do not need population to live fulfilled life as individuals or nations, but knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. Unless we do things according to the laws of nature, we will forever feel inadequate and wander around without clear understanding of where we are going and what to do and how to do it. That's your guy there.
Yeah, no, Mr. David, really, I couldn't have put it any better myself. And maybe with that, I should give my final thoughts, right?
Yeah.
And here's
can I just read two more comments before you get to your final? Because if you look at some of these comments, this is from Pele Jackson. In SA, there's children allowance. Narahwe Bongwanake is from South Africa, Mpumalanga, and my children have children allowance. So Botswana should do the same thing. Anyway, friends, give us your last 2 minutes. Your last thought.
Yeah, so I think it's a great idea, right, to want to, build our community and grow. I have a nephew called Nzwandile. It means Motsekwatile, Wahola. So I believe in that. I think it's a great thing, right? However, I do think that you can try to do the right things for the wrong reasons, right? And I think that anytime somebody is trying to have a child because there's a financial incentive, that's a pretty good clue that they're doing it for the wrong reasons, right? Every person I know that has children and loves their children, they mention like money is the last thing they care about, right? When they think about their children. So I don't think it would be a good idea for a government to start trying to draw that association right now. With regard to the population, human nature, the grass is greener that side, isn't it? But reality is, these countries that have much larger populations than us, examples that you're giving, Nigeria, South Africa, yeah, I've been there. I like those countries, but I like Botswana more, right? I think that they have their problems the same way we have our problems, right? And we mustn't look at what they have and think we just want to import all the good things that they have, because when we do that, we import all the problems as well.
Yeah. No, Garuta, Mr. Fangs, you very clearly are comfortable with our numbers of our population. I think it's actually a little shocking. In 10 years, we've only added 300,000 to the population. You know, if you looked at those stats numbers, there were places like Bokasane, like 9 people have come to Kasane in that time. You know what I mean? Look, the point is that we need numbers for all sorts of things to function. I still believe that, and I want to hear an economist's perspective, right? But very basically, now I look at things like from an entrepreneur's perspective. There's especially a lot of our youth entrepreneurs, you know, who are selling products, music, whatever, you know. Their market is limited by our numbers. So I feel like the moment, we start to have more children, we are increasing our population, we're increasing our customer base, and we are becoming a more attractive country. Fine, you are saying Nigeria, South Africa are not the greatest of countries, right? But in those countries, they enjoy the greatest economic prosperity. So now how come would I rather live in a country peacefully, but I have a better chance of selling my product? I would rather be in that country where I can sell my product, Mr. Fags.
All right, and with that, Mr. Chief, I'm done.
And with that, we bring an end to today's show. As usual, we love to hear your comments. Keep them coming in. And until next week on The Voice of the People. But before we go, man, there's one more comment that just came in. I have to read this comment because it is from a friend of the show, Mr. Henry Arthur. He says, the nations that have small populations and high incomes may not be appropriate analogies to draw. Yeah, sure. That's why I like Henry's comment. If we look at it from a snapshot perspective, at some point, even Hong Kong and Singapore had a population explosion. Furthermore, their current population is in the perspective of the size of their countries compared to Botswana, shows that we are doing poor numbers regardless. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to sign out of the show. My name is Khosi, and I'm with my co-host there, Tumo, aka Mr. Fangs. We are the voice, you are the people.
Good night.
We know what you're looking for.
Your specially grilled newspaper, spiced with lifestyle, sport, entertainment, politics, business, and international news. The Voice is available every Friday. Subscribe now. The Voice.